So in this video, we're going to look at installing an Antlet from an ISO. It's fairly straightforward to do. In this case, I'm going to use a Kali Linux ISO, the 2018.4 build, and build myself a Kali Linux install. You may have noticed already that I've got a Kali 28.4 instance on here. This is the full AMD 64 build, and the performance on this is really pretty poor. I originally built it with 2 CPUs and 2 gigs of RAM, and I had to bump it up to 4 gigs and 4 CPUs to get any kind of performance out of it, and I still find it really slow and difficult to use. So I'm going to go ahead and build one from one of these light images. I'm going to start with the, I think the 386 light image. I've downloaded these from the Kali website. In a previous video, we looked at how to validate the SHA-256 checksums on them, and I've done that, so I'm confident these are good builds. So let's go ahead and see if we can get this installed on my Antsle. You may have noticed, I don't know, that my public IP and private IP are hidden here. This little eye icon right here will hide those. In the UI, this was a feature I asked for way back. It's been implemented for a long time, but for shooting video like I'm doing, it's just nice to be able to mask those. It gives me a tiny bit more security. You can see my Antle's really idle now. It's really only got 2 things running on it, and that is the Shadowtron.com website, which is the support site for the channel here, and the info site, which is a really old version of my website that's got tons of data sheets, lots of just really old stuff collected on there, and it's, you know, it's a pretty lousy designed website, but I use it for reference, just to grab those old data sheets. It's got some old project information. Anyhow, enough plugging the couple of websites. Let's go ahead and build an Antlet. So of course we're going to click on New Antlet. We want to build this as a blank KVM. We'll give it a name here, Kali Light 2018.4. It's the biggest name I can have. 386. Kali Light 18.4. I'm going to have enough letters here, 386. So Kali Light 84. 386, will that fit? It's pretty cryptic, but it gives me a hint which ISO this came from. So I said we're going to build it with a blank KVM. I'll go ahead and give it a couple of cores and 2 gigs of RAM. And let's go ahead and create the Antlet. So the Antlet's been created here. Actually, no, it's been created. Where did it end up? There it is up here. It's been created right here. Let's go ahead and get into the properties for it and virtual drives. And I need to add a new virtual drive right here. And we're going to go ahead and click New Virtual Drive. What have I done wrong here? I want to be able to... I need to do an import disk. So let me go back. Import disk is where we import the ISO. So we get to here, we're going to drag and drop our ISO into the frame here. So this is Kali Light 386, and we'll drop it in here. And it does have to upload the ISO to the Antsle, and this will take a little bit of time. So I'll pause the video here and come back when this is done. So the ISO is just about to complete uploading, and there it's completed. So we've got the ISO transferred to the Antsle. We want to add this as a CD-ROM drive, and that way when we start this virtual machine, it'll boot from that CD-ROM drive. So let's go ahead and do that. This should come in pretty quick. We've got the CD-ROM mounted here, and we have the blank disk that was created. This doesn't need to be 100 gigabytes. Let's take it down to something reasonable, maybe 20 gigs. Go ahead and resize that disk. Oh, okay, so I can't resize that. So that's not good. So we'll just abort the changes. So I wasn't aware of that, so we just noticed I can't shrink that down. That's actually okay. So let's go ahead and close this. And I can come back and validate that we've got the CD-ROM mounted. So let's go ahead and start this. And the virtual machine should start, which is done and it's up and running. And let's go ahead and look at the console on the machine. And there we are. We're in the Kali install. So if this was a different operating system, ISO, you would really be able to do the same thing, booting from an ISO image. So starting up, normal messages. We're going to do an English install. United States, because that's where I'm at. I speak American English. We'll let this run through and retrieve all the stuff it needs to install. I haven't actually ever installed the light image here before. I don't really know what to expect with it. Again, we'll look at performance. It's detected the hardware. It's getting network connections. Doing a DHCP configuration, and it's done it. Enter the name of this machine. This is Kali 2018.4 Light I386. Up. Continue. Okay, let's go back and Kali dash light 2018 dash 4 dash I386 and see if it'll take that. This is really bogus. I'm not actually running a domain here at home, but we'll go ahead and give it a name. We've got to type it the same twice in a row. I am Pacific time. Rosie wants attention upstairs. That's one of my dogs. So we're just going to do guided, use the entire disk. I'm not going to set up an encrypted LVM, at least for this demo. So let's just go ahead and take the default. We're going to use the 107 gigabyte drive that it created. All files in one partition is fine for me. Finish partitioning and write it to the disk. And yes, we want to actually commit it. And it's off to copying the various files to the disk system. So this will take a bit. I'll come back when this is done. So we finished copying the files. I'm going to go ahead and tell it to use a network mirror. If I can get focus here. I don't need a proxy. And it's hit the mirror and it's bringing down files off the mirror. So this is a good thing at this point. Typically I build Kali out on a MacBook Pro when I need it, but I thought it would be interesting to do it here on a Antsle Antlet. Well, there's an exciting blue screen. Hopefully it's not the blue screen of death. Not really sure what it's doing at this point. Like I say, you're seeing this pretty much live. I haven't tried this before with the light version. There it is. So it's going to install grub, etc., etc. That's exciting. It's at 0%. There it goes. Looking for other. There's no other operating system, so I can go ahead and safely install it. We're just going to go ahead and install it on the only drive we have. It's at finishing the installation, so this should be interesting to see what we get. I'm kind of lazy. I prefer a GUI. My days of working totally at the command line, I hate to say it, we're back in the days of the PDP-11 machines, VAXs, those kinds of systems. I spent huge amounts of time back in the day at the command line under VMS and RT11 and RSX11M and SCO and various other operating systems over the years. And I've gotten lazy, lazy, so installation's complete. So we can continue here, but what'll happen is if I continue, it'll reboot and it'll start again from the ISO image we have mounted. So we need to now remove that ISO image. So we come back around to the VM, which is this guy right here, and we're going to go to virtual drives, and we're going to go ahead and delete. Oh, I've got to stop the Antlet first. I make that mistake every time. So I'm just going to go ahead and stop it at that point. Sometimes it requires a forced stop to get it to stop. Yeah, it doesn't seem to want to stop here. I'm going to go ahead and do a forced stop on it, just because I know it's safe to stop at this point. Everything's installed. Now we can go in to the virtual drive, so we can remove the CD that we've mounted. We're left with the original, what was originally the blank drive that now has Kali installed on it. Let's go ahead and close that out, and let's come back and we can actually close this window up here. Let's go ahead and start the Antlet up again, and let's take a look at the console. I gotta go in and add that as a, and the system's coming up. Again, it'll be interesting to see if this performs any better. I did encrypt the hard drive. It should only ask me for the root password. Yeah, and see, because I did the force start, it's got to recover the journal. Root. Oh, interesting. Root. Apparently caps lock is on. Let's see. That should have been the password. Wouldn't it be embarrassing if I forgot the password? Huh. So this always gets interesting. Did I mistype the password twice? Caps lock is off. Holy moly, what did I do here? Well, I had caps lock on, I do believe, when I typed in the password. Let's see if this actually gets in. I had caps lock on when I typed in that password originally, so reversing the casing on it fixed this. So for start, I'm going to use the default config. And we've got a minimal install here. Let's take a look at the applications. And I can already say the performance here is much better. This is essentially reacting in real time. So I'm happy with that. Let's go ahead and look at the web browser performance. Let's actually come back and look at the hit it's taking on the system. This may be a case where additional RAM would help as well. So I would have expected Firefox to have brought everything back by now, and this is one of the first issues I ran into with the full install. Was Firefox was super slow, and until I bumped up RAM to 4 gigs, I actually added 2 gigs of RAM and 2 more cores at that point, and I don't know which one actually helped. Although it's still I don't spend enough time in Cali to remember where things live. File manager, minimize all windows. Settings, there's what I've been trying to find. Or maybe this isn't what I'm trying to find. Well, I'm going to go ahead and kill Firefox here. Let's go ahead and close both tabs. I'm going to shut the image down. Let's do it from the console here. And it's shut down. And let's go ahead and add some resources. So I'm going to go ahead and bump the RAM up to 4 gigs. And we'll try that first. Update the properties. Close. And let's restart it. And get back to the console. Yeah, something I've never had a good visibility into is where the performance bottlenecks really are with the VMs running in the Antsle, or in the Antsle. And it's something I just need to go research. I'm sure there's a way to tune. That's an interesting mess. Not really sure what's happened there. Hardware name. And kernel panic not syncing. Well, let's go ahead and stop it and restart it. Adding 2 gigs of RAM shouldn't have destroyed the VM. Is it actually going to stop here? Nothing's still grabbing resources. Let's see if I can force a reboot. It should force stop. No, it didn't actually shut down. So let's go ahead and do a force stop and see it actually stop. This isn't a good sign. Okay, it stopped. Let's go ahead and start it again. Two gigs of additional RAM shouldn't cause a failure like this. Interesting, and kernel panic not syncing. So I don't honestly know if this is trying to continue past this point or if it's really halted. I'm guessing it's really halted here. I'm being very rude to this VM at this point. Well, let's go ahead and kick the RAM back to 2 gig. That was the one change we made. And start it again. This isn't encouraging. That's better. So it was the RAM causing the kernel panic. I don't fully understand that. Well, we're going to be back in the same boat we were a minute ago here. Curious. Of course, this is really me looping back around to another VM on the machine. I don't remember if Google's pingable or not. You know, my times getting off the box and out are reasonable there. See if we can actually get it to shut down. I think it actually, yeah, it actually took the shutdown. So let's play here a bit. Let's add just 1 gig of RAM and see if it'll start at 3 gigs. I don't know if I maybe should have installed on a 4 gig VM to begin with. I've got a, so apologies for having to run away so quick there. I've got a sick dog who required my attention. So let me, well, I don't know where I'm actually typing because it's obviously not where I think I am. Let's go ahead and get logged in and see if performance seems any better. Again, just general responsiveness at this point is better. See, that going from 2 to 3 gigs of RAM seems to have really helped, and I'm not sure why an additional gig for, you know, the web browser here would be required. Hop off to Google. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Performing TLS handshake too. Lots of, you know, there I am at the top, Shadowtron blog on YouTube. That is me. I'm not going to have audio here. Yeah, performance is better at this point. I'm not sure why 2 cores would make a difference, but we'll keep playing here. Let's go ahead and shut it down again. And hopefully it'll stop here. It is stopped. Let's go ahead and play. Let's go back to 2 gigs and add a couple of cores and just see what that does. And we'll start him here again and get a console. I know the web browser is a pretty poor benchmark. Well, that would help if I could type Google. I'm confused by that. Again, we're back at that piss poor performance. Yeah, I think we've determined here the RAM is really required. No surprise. Guess I should research minimum hardware requirements. There constantly. So I'm going to leave it at 4 vCPUs. I'm going to kick it up to 3.5 gigs to see if we can start with 3.5 gigs. Doesn't like 3.5 gigs. won't stop here. We went through this before. I'm going to have to force stop it. Back to 3 gigs. So I think we're quickly getting to, oops, the best performance we're going to have here. Stupid. Again, why I'm having these issues, I don't really know. I'm going to have to do some research. And at 3 gigs, it is bootable again. Actually, it's going to come to the UI. I really wish I could get a bigger window here on the system. Oh, that's not desktop size. Bump this up to something more reasonable. See what we get. Oh, that's much better. That's much better. As I recall, this didn't work well a year ago when I tried it, although I could be wrong. So it looks like 3 gig is probably the best I can do here. The various apps are here. Let's go ahead and open up Terminal. See if there's any additional updates to be brought down. Wouldn't expect there to be at this point, but oh yeah, yes, we want to bring down all of this. Makes the machine a little more usable. So that's not bad. The apt-get upgrade is doing its thing. Obviously, I'm using the mirror at Berkeley. Startup removable drives, power manager panel. Does not have the packages on here I want. I'd like to look at system performance, and I'm not remembering how to do it offhand. I jump back and forth between too many operating systems. Jump back and forth between too many operating systems. Just crunching away down here, which is nice. Okay. point. I'm just randomly clicking around to play here. See if I can find any of my network resources. There are services which need to be restarted with certain libraries. Yeah, I'll go ahead and let that happen. Just go ahead and let it restart the services as it needs to. Sorry, I'm just poking around here while this does the upgrade behind the scenes. Obviously that didn't do what I wanted. For applications, audio. Well, I think I'll go ahead and just wrap this video up here. You know, what we did with the ISO applies to pretty much any ISO you might want to install. If I uncover any information on getting a little better performance on the system, I will put up another video that kind of talks about what I discover. Don't really understand why going to 4 gigabytes of RAM causes it to fail, why we get the kernel panic. Is what it is. So I think I will wrap this up. This has already gone on way too long, and we'll talk soon.